Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Rampage and welcome to my Far Cry 4 PC benchmark. Now, I'll quickly show you what settings that I'll be playing with, but as you can see right now, my FPS is about 68 to 70 FPS, so it's not doing too bad. Now, I found out that there is a little bit of stutter, as well as like weird stuff if you, a lot of lag if you like render, or if you use your computer for say several days without turning it off. Your performance will probably be a little bit worse than this, but you know, 60 frames per second right now, you know, that's not too bad. The overall performance isn't too bad, but it could be a little bit better. But in terms of comparing it towards Far Cry 3, the performance in Far Cry 4 is a lot, and I mean a lot better than Far Cry 3, because for me, Far Cry 3 was probably one of the worst optimized games apart from Assassin's Creed, purely to come out of Ubisoft, and that was kind of depressing. But anyway, let's get into the settings that I'm playing with right now. So I'm playing at 1080p, 60 refresh rate, full screen, VSync off, obviously. Quality settings: motion blur off, textures at ultra, shadows at ultra, post effects at low. Post effects is basically like depth of field. Motion blur, in this case, they've got two separate options. And kind of like other things like super RGB, that's it, that sort of thing, like they actually have in Assassin's Creed Unity. But anyway, geometry all the way down to environment set to ultra, ambient occlusion HBAO+, anti-aliasing SMAA, God rays enhanced, fur on, and trees relief. Okay, don't really understand what that is, but anyway, so there's ultra as well as NVIDIA. NVIDIA enables NVIDIA-based sort of technology, i.e. soft shadows, TXAA if your graphics card supports it, as well as fur, I think, as well as trees relief. Not 100% sure what that means, but anyway, they also give you a color settings. Okay, whatever. Advanced also has VSync mode, which is normal, and then sparse. Not too sure what sparse is. Far Cry 3 had a similar thing where it was like double buffered and triple buffered, whereas double and triple buffered in that game was kind of shit. In this case, they give you VSync on, as well as like what sort of mode you want, like normal VSync, sparse, whatever the fuck that means. I assume it's like double buffering, I don't know, as well as triple buffering. Now, underneath here is the field of view slider, which doesn't really tell you what FOV you're actually playing with, which is a little bit of annoyance because, or a annoyance, simply because you don't know what field of view you're playing with. And for some reason, yeah, there we go. My FPS has suddenly dropped to 45 FPS, and that is simply because shadows is ridiculous, as well as TXAA. TXAA is a NVIDIA-based anti-aliasing solution, which NVIDIA claims is somewhat faster and less intensive, but I call a load of bullshit on that, because I've had a GTX 770 as well as a 970, yet the performance with TXAA is fucking terrible. But anyway, I don't know if I mentioned my specs, but my specs are an i5-2500K clocked at 4.5 GHz, as well as 16 gigs of Kingston HyperX RAM, overclocked from 1600 MHz to 1866 MHz, as well as an Asus GTX 970 OC Edition, or Strix OC Edition, further overclocked, as well as a Asus GTX 770 overclocked edition, and that is dedicated to physics. Now, you also notice underneath the D3, D11, which is the third option down on the top left there, there's MEM2 and GPU2. Those are the results for my GPU, or my second GPU, which is the GTX 770. And as you can see, it's not actually doing anything. And that is because physics in this game is based on the CPU. Now, CPU-based physics is fucking annoying, simply because if you don't have a powerful enough CPU, you get a lot of fucking lag. Now, my CPU is pretty decent for what it is, but it's still old. you know, it's still very good. But in terms of, I don't know if this is actually true. I haven't actually tested any other sort of newer CPU in terms of CPU-based physics. But I assume it's got something to do with performance as well. So, but in that case, it doesn't really make sense, because if I'm getting a lot of drops or 43 FPS at max simply because my CPU might be too bad, then why is the CPU not using 100% like it was in Far Cry 3? So I don't know whether it's got something to do with multi-core rendering, or, you know, it's got something to do with the game not being able to process multiple cores that easily. But yeah, so far the game unmaxed is kind of ridiculous. If you know, if you have my graphics card and you want to play it like 30 frames per second, then by all means go ahead. But for me, I don't really give a shit about that. So let's just quickly test the game in Ultra without TXAA. So let's just turn down anti-aliasing to SMAA and see what the performance is like. So there you go. Turning TXAA off basically gave me at least an average of 23, 24 FPS difference. So, you know, with a GTX 970 with whatever the fuck FOV I'm playing at right now, is very, very playable. But for someone like me, I would like to play with VSync, so the higher FPS I can get will generally mean I will get less stutters. So what I tend to do in this case is, when I turn VSync on, is try to get the game not to drop. And by that, we have to turn more settings down. So a lot of people have gone on forums or even read articles or even watched videos where they notice that the game stutters in certain areas. Now I haven't actually come across that because I haven't played enough of this game to, you know, simply determine where the stuttering areas are, but I assume it does stutter a lot. So in terms of that, I would have to turn down the settings that I just did, you know, to get an average of over 60 frames per second. But when I look this way, as you saw there, it dropped from like 63 frames per second down to 55 frames per second. Now this is still extremely playable, don't get me wrong. It's just, it looks like there's a little bit more optimization that needs to be put in place. Now if we look this way, we get 62 frames per second, or an average of 60 frames per second. Then if we turn around, we get 67 frames per second, and you saw that increase in FPS. It went up to 77 FPS. So let's see what happens when we turn some of these settings back on in terms of ambient occlusion. So it was an average of 65 FPS. Now this is with HBAO Plus enabled. So we've got 63 FPS facing that way, and we've got 64 FPS? No, 61, 64 FPS. So it dipped 3 FPS, and for some reason it's actually going better with HBO Plus enabled rather than the other form of SS whatever the fuck. Because I have no idea what SS, what was it? SSBC even means. I assume it's got something to do with screen space bullshit culling. I don't know. That's all I could come up with off the top of my head. But now if we turn it down to SSAO, you know, I get an average of 2 to 3 FPS difference. You know, now if I turn that off, let's see what I get. So if we turn ambient occlusion off altogether, it kind of drops in FPS. I'm not too sure how that actually makes any sense, but you know, that's kind of a little bit weird. If you turn off any sort of ambient occlusion, it drops in certain areas. Now if I look this way, obviously it's going to be a little bit better, but for some reason looking this way, it's actually the same or worse. So that's where I wanted to point out that this game needs a little bit more optimization. Granted, it is, as I said, a lot better than Far Cry 3, but you know, It does need a little bit of work. But for some reason you can't use any weapons here, or it doesn't really want to sort of switch to the weapon until you go a little bit further away. Ooh, headshot. Did I just die by a pig? Nearly. Fuck off. Let's just, hold on, let me just take out this pig real quick. Come back here, motherfucker! Because actually, we'll use this one as an example for fur. Did I just set off a massive, like, firefight or something? Hey. I swear I just got it in the face. Why is it still running away? Oh, wait. Bitch, get back here. Fuck you, piglet. Fuck it. We'll just use this one. But anyway, this is what NVIDIA fur looks like, right? Now, if we turn fur off, for some reason it looks really terrible in this game. It also didn't really look too good in Call of Duty Ghosts either, but in this game, it looks really fucking terrible. I'm not even gonna lie in that respect, shit. But, alright, let's quickly turn fur off. And there you go. So the pig looks like a total arse fest if you don't have fur on, because it basically gives you like a more over blur. I don't really understand the overall performance, right? Because you've got like rocks that look like this. They're all like completely blurry and shit like that. And then the ground is also blurry. So why the fuck is this game using over 2 gigs of VRAM and has performance that kind of is around 60 FPS sometimes, or most of the time in this case? It doesn't really make any sense to me. I don't know what's going on, but I do believe this game does need a little bit more optimization. But as of right now, it's not too bad. It is still incredibly playable. But for me, it's, you know, I spent $500 or over that on a graphics card, and the game still doesn't really run above 60 maxed out without TXA on. You know, whatever, guys. It's from Ubisoft, so, you know, just take this with a grain of salt, because it is probably the best we're going to see for a fucking Far Cry game in a long time. But, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed my benchmark for Far Cry 4. I hope you've enjoyed it and stuff, and please subscribe for more, I guess, because I will be planning to benchmark Assassin's Creed Unity eventually. Probably sometime this week. I do have a review to do for Borderlands, the pre-sequel. So I have to get that out of the way. But other than that, yeah, see you guys next time. Peace out.